Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be looking at Architectural Designs, which is a random website I found for our floor plan today. Here you can see our facade. It's a 1,800 square foot house, and here you'll see the first floor and then the second floor, and now we'll begin the build. First, I start off by making one room. It kind of creates the foundation for how I kind of want the others to kind of be in terms of the measurement. And I feel like the bathroom is kind of like an easy thing to start off with and kind of build from there. I kind of like checking out the stairs first, because when you are trying to make kind of like a rotated stairs, it kind of becomes difficult to place once you have already started building, and it can kind of get deleted or may not really fit well properly. So it's best to start off with kind of like a bare bone structure with the stairs and kind of go from there with testing out the furniture, testing out the windows, and kind of see how you want it to go to follow along with a real life floor plan. And here I want to build the living room, and the dining room is basically trying to continue with the idea of getting a foundation going, so it sets kind of like the tone for how you want to go with the build, and it kind of allows you to pick out what kind of theme you kind of want. With the color of the cabinets, the tables, sofa, flooring, and wallpaper, you kind of want to just go with the flow for what you desire. And you want to just make sure that you're continuing following the floor plan to make sure that the doors fit and lighting and such. And here I'm kind of adding the back room and the garage, and it's kind of crazy how big it generally is in comparison to the house, but when looking at the floor plan, the garage is kind of about almost the same size in terms of the width. And in terms of the measurement from real life to Sims, you kind of have to measure kind of like the square footage to kind of how like a single square in the Sims kind of like measure to. And it's kind of requires some playing around with, but you'll kind of end up making it work. But it can kind of be difficult, especially with Windows, since there could be like half footage measurements, and Windows don't always like line up with that in mind. Here I am starting with the second floor. Now before you get too far, it would be best for you to kind of start building the skeleton of how the second floor would look, kind of making sure that the walls align from the first floor to the second floor, because generally with real life floor plans, it's kind of hard to, as mentioned prior, with like finding a perfect measurement. So you kind of want to just build around to just make sure everything fits, maybe build a few rooms and kind of see how it aligns with the first floor. And a big indicator of how you want to measure is with the stairs, kind of like align how it starts from there. And I'm kind of just doing what I was doing from the very beginning of the video, where I want to build kind of like a room as like a starting place with like the bathroom, kind of just seeing to make sure that it fits for the functionality that I'm looking for. And here I'm building the roof with kind of like a technique where you want the angled gable on the second floor and a single angled roof on the first floor, and you kind of want to just line it up just so it looks like one big roof. Now here you'll see that there are some of the walls sticking out. Unfortunately, that's kind of the nature of this build, where in a Craftsman house with 2 floors is not really going to be kind of like a farmhouse where you get a full second floor with the roof on top of it. This one, the second room is kind of within that roofing, so you a lot of times see in photos of these kind of houses where you'll have angled ceilings. So since it's not going to be a perfectly squared room, a lot of it is kind of like going through, although in real life obviously it's just cut off, so you won't really see it like that. And unfortunately The Sims has a limitation where you can't really cut it off, so it'll kind of be a sight for sore eyes. And here I am kind of playing around with the stairs again. As you can see, it's kind of like being a butt. We're trying to add the basement stairs and the second floor stairs, but it does eventually work out. You just gotta play around with it just to make it work. And here I am adding the flooring. I would say that the floor choice and wallpaper combination that you choose kind of sets the tone for how you want everything else to align. So a lot of the builds I like to do is having like dark wood flooring with kind of a light colored wall. So it would generally be white, beige, or things like that. And I feel like with bright walls, you kind of have the sense of bigger space. And I kind of like a forest theme, so I generally have a lot of browns, greens, and things like that when it comes to my cabinets and furnitures and such. Here, I'm kind of building kind of like a makeshift garage with the room dividers and doors, and just kind of like sizing it up and moving it up just so that it kind of gives an effect of kind of like a wooden garage door. Unfortunately, with how Sims renders kind of like items, if you are looking from the second floor or third floor, I would believe, you kind of don't see the renders of things on the first floor at all, kind of like to improve performance. I'm not sure exactly how you can kind of allow it to just render regardless, but that's kind of like one limitation, but it's kind of like the whole idea of it is kind of just up to your imagination to see a garage door. And of course it doesn't really open. It'd be kind of cool if, even though Sims has no need for a garage, it'd be nice to have like cars and things like that without like using cheat codes. And here I was trying to figure out if it would be possible to add a microwave into the cabinet, but it just didn't really work out, so I just added it like that. And I kind of like adding tiny little trash cans next to toilets or bathrooms in general. And yeah, here I'm kind of making my own makeshift TV stand and continuing on with the forest theme with a bunch of greens, browns, and things like that. And with this floor plan in particular, I saw that there's not really much of a foyer space, so I kind of, unfortunately, it would be kind of narrow, but I wanted to ensure that there's kind of like space for stores, especially with shoes. Although in the floor plan you'll also see that there is like a small closet where you can kind of put your racks, like clothes and such, although you kind of have to walk like towards the halfway point of the house. Unfortunately, there's not really a mudroom for this floor plan, so I kind of begin working on adding kind of like a cabinet space within the garage that you can kind of make use of to store coats and such. And here I'm kind of, there's not really a lot of space again for storage, so I'm kind of just trying to fit as many things as possible within this small build, and hopefully Sims would be able to kind of walk through that space between the island and that little cabinet space there. And a lot of times when I'm building, I kind of just go through like each category of item and kind of just throw them around. So sometimes you might see them on the floor or outside, but it's kind of like there is just a space holder until I find a place where I want to put them in the future. And here, from looking at the floor plan, there's supposed to be a window that goes from the kitchen to a closed off patio. but I made a modification where I want the closed off patio to instead be a sunroom. So I do add like a few windows between the kitchen and such, and it could be kind of cool where if it opens and you can kind of pass food to the people behind it, but for the limitations you'll just see it as windows. And here I kind of want the sunroom to be kind of like a small games room or hobby room, in addition to kind of like a secondary living room. And from the floor plan, it's kind of like a 27 by 10 I believe measurement, and I feel like that can generally fit quite a lot of things. So here I kind of want to add like kind of like a Jenga table, and I was hoping that you could fit it into another table set, but unfortunately that is not the case. So you kind of have to go with what the Sims offer you for a table like that, but it still looks nice because it fits the theme. In here I'm kind of wanting to build like a walk-in shower room, and it's kind of nice seeing a bunch of decor available in The Sims where you can just fill up a lot of dead space. And I feel like whenever you're playing it like within a house that you make on your own, I feel like it's just such a nice feeling. However, I unfortunately always feel like I want to build a whole new house. So I play, let's say like a build like this, I probably play in it for like a few days and I'm like, I want to build a new house. So unfortunately a lot of these houses don't really stay, but I started wanting to do these YouTube videos so I can store like the build that I've done. It also gives me like kind of like a little diary of what has happened within these kind of series, so that's quite fun. And I hope that a lot of you guys find it entertaining to see my build process and kind of like what I like in a theme. And a lot of times you'll see in my builds they're kind of like the same theme with the forest as I mentioned, because I feel like greens, browns, and things like that, they're kind of like common, I would say, in real life households, but I'm not sure if people kind of prefer like a full white kind of theme. But I think in future builds maybe I'll kind of go outside my comfort zone and try like different colorations, like maybe a more colorful one with like reds, yellows, maybe a more monotone one with blacks, browns, and whites. And I feel like that would be kind of cool. For this room here, this one is like as big as a master bedroom, which is kind of wild, but I'm using this as kind of like a nursery where you can kind of sit there as a parent and kind of play around, and there's like a carpet so that kids have a lot of space to play within. And I feel like having two little toddlers beds would be kind of perfect for that kind of size. Of course it can be converted into a more single bedroom or kind of like two twin beds for in the future. I would say this house, you can kind of say this would have two master bedrooms and then two normal size rooms. One of course right across the hall and then one downstairs. Although I've noticed that when I was looking at floor plans, there's like 10 by 12 rooms, which I thought was like really small, but it does seem to be quite common in a room. But from building it in The Sims, it's kind of nice to see what kind of space that room would offer you. Although from the measurement with 10 by 12, there's not really a size in The Sim that you can kind of go with, so it would be like a 3 by 4. But I feel like for this build particularly, it kind of fit as like a 4 by 4, so you can kind of imagine it in real life being like a 12 by 12. So it is slightly bigger than what it would be like in real life, but I would say for this floor plan, I feel like a 10 by 12 would be kind of sufficient for a single adult, especially if there's like just a twin size or full size bed, but nothing bigger than that, just so you can fit more things within it. And here I'm kind of building that room out, and I'm hoping to add like a reading place or like a desk, just so there could be more things that could be done with this room. Yeah, and A thing that I've incorporated into my builds are having accent walls, and it's kind of like something that has been added to Animal Crossing a long while back, and I feel like it gives like each room oomph, but I feel like it's not really necessary in like a bathroom, because with the bathroom you kind of want like a single wallpaper so that it doesn't get like too humid or such. But I feel like in bedrooms or living rooms or kind of like just closed off space in general, it's nice having accent wallpaper. And I feel like it's important adding like just rugs under the bed or tables or seating area, so it kind of doesn't feel too open. It kind of feels a lot more cozy when you add rugs, especially on like a wooded flooring. But unfortunately with like a carpet flooring, you don't really get the opportunity to add much detail onto floors. So I feel like it's always nice to have wooded floors, but of course in real life having wooded floors are generally a lot more expensive, so it's not really attainable for quite a lot of people, unless you're having, I forgot what it's called, but it's kind of like fake wood floorings, and that's kind of like budget friendly. Unfortunately here you'll see that the natural space that the cabinets want to fill is like the very top of the ceiling, and that's kind of just what the Sims naturally give you. But if you're looking from the second floor, it kind of like clips through, and you kind of have to just adjust it manually yourself, holding Alt, just so that it doesn't clip through. And another thing that you may have seen earlier is that when we're building the bedroom on the first floor, when you're kind of adding walls or adjusting it, you might see that the windows don't really follow with your camera, so it kind of needs to you just click it and then place it again, and it'll just fix itself from there. And I feel like that kind of works out. Here I'm kind of wanting to add a queen size bed since this room is quite big, but at a later point I believe I do change it so that it would fit like a twin or full size bed kind of thing, so that it would fit a lot more things in here, especially trying to fit a desk, although I could be mistaken. And a lot of times with my builds, I want to make sure each room is kind of catered towards a different individual. Of course, there's kind of like a toddler room and kind of like a teen's room and a parent's room and kind of things like that. It kind of depends on your taste or what kind of functionality you're looking for when you're trying to add specific like furniture to a room. I feel like with the landing for the second floor, there isn't really a whole lot of space for you to add a lot of furniture, so it's mainly just walking space in between rooms. But I saw that there's like a small corner where you can kind of fit a chair to kind of just sit and read, although you could probably add other things to just add a little bit of storage or things like that. For the master bedroom, I thought it was such an interesting layout where there's kind of a bulge in the room where you can kind of fit a TV, and from the size of it, I thought it would be cool to have like a seating area to a TV with your bed, because with a lot of other kinds of room layouts, you would generally see a bed facing a TV stand and you would kind of watch TV from your bed. But for this room particularly, I thought it was so cool that you would probably have enough space for you to fit like a love seat, so it would be quite nice. And I was able to fit a desk in it, so it's kind of like its own little studio apartment. The only thing missing obviously is just a kitchen, but you have your TV, your bed, your bathrooms, and things like that, and I thought it was quite cool. Here I am adding the wallpaper for outdoors. For a Craftsman house, you kind of see a lot of shake shingle wallings, and I feel like that looks really cool. I wish you could add like a stone veneer siding, and so it kind of like transitions into stone, into the shake shingles, and I feel like that makes a house like a lot less bland. Because I feel like a lot of houses, well, obviously is for budget purposes, but you would generally find like a full brick house or a house that is only a single type of walling. But I feel like given the opportunity, it's nice to see what kind of things you can add just to make it a lot more pleasant to the eyes. Here, I want to add, or wanted to add kind of like a parking area. So you would drive into the garage and you can also park your cars outdoors. And I kind of just randomly thought of this because the fences wouldn't really align with how it kind of showing from the back. So I wanted to add like a little fence to the left, add a little fence to the right, and then you would just drive right in. But I thought it was quite cool, and I feel like I might utilize that kind of design in the future where you kind of just see kind of like fencing that doesn't align from the front to the back. But I feel like it just works out for this build, especially with trying to get a little more car space. With how I design the exterior, I generally want to add the trees and just kind of like space it out to how I want. And from there, I kind of go, it's kind of like a cycle of how you do landscaping. So it's like trees, you would add your terrain like paint, and then you would add foliage around it, and you're kind of just going from one side of the house to another, just like in full cycle, and going through all the plants that you want. And I feel like it kind of like works out, so it's not completely symmetrical, but you kind of see like a pattern going on that just works, instead of you completely finishing the foliage within like a little tree slot, adding like various things, but it doesn't really match when you're kind of like going from one to one. I don't know if that kind of makes sense, but from the video you can kind of see like the idea with that. And here I wanted to add some outdoor seating and pool, and I feel like it's kind of nice to have a little shade cover where you can kind of put your grill and seating area and things like that. Although I'm not sure of what kind of fire hazard it would be having it above, but for aesthetic purposes I feel like it looks fine. And I really like how, I believe the desert furniture that you see, I remember it being free, although I could be mistaken, like it was just given. And I feel like it has such nice outdoor furniture. It's so modern and so chic. I feel like I would use it for every single build because it just looks so nice. And here I want to make use of every single furniture available to me, especially with the desert one. And one thing that I feel like I forget sometimes is outdoor lighting, and it's kind of important for you to add like lanterns within like your foliage, or kind of like however you want, whether it is kind of more natural or more kind of like with more purpose or such. And I feel like it just looks nice, especially when you're playing and you kind of want to have a more realistic feel. Like during the day you're kind of just indoors, but at night you're kind of just outdoors in the back, and it's like nice having it fully lit and having like a party back there. I feel like it just looks nice. Here I'm kind of trying to hide the walls, like the ones poking out, to kind of make sure it would blend in more with the roof, or kind of just like float better. But hopefully, although it's like sticking out, I hope it still looks nice, but I believe it does. Here I'm kind of just trying to fill the space, adding like swings, planters, and having like a little campfire section. I think it'll be nice. Like, I feel like this backyard is not the biggest, but it does fulfill all the functionality that it needs to, with a lot of recreational things and hobbies and just relaxation and such. I remember when Outdoor Retreat came out, like, I really loved everything about it, because in real life I have never really went camping, but I feel like I would enjoy it. But having it in The Sims allows me to kind of like enjoy that. But that is kind of the purpose of a lot of DLC. It's kind of things that most people may not have the opportunity to try. So things like this Snowy Escape with like Japan theme, and kind of, I forgot what it was called. It was like Jungle Adventure, and I feel like all the DLC are just like really great. But I wish that a lot of the content were cheaper, because I feel like it's just really rough spending. If you were to buy like every single DLC without a sale, it will probably end up being like $500+, and I feel like that's just ridiculous for a game. But I feel like you could play just The Sims for the rest of your life and you would still probably never get bored. So I guess $500, I guess, kind of works. It's like passable. And here I am just filling in the fine details, adding all the things that I can, basically just going down the list of all the decorations and things like that, just to fill up or place however I want. And in the basement I like having like a mechanical room, and it's kind of things from Get to Work DLC, where you would add like pipes and water heaters and things like that. Although the items in The Sims are probably not meant for that, but I feel like it kind of works for kind of like the imagination, kind of like the same thing as the makeshift garage door. And from my previous video and this video, I feel like each build is just so much fun, and I feel like I want to continue with the real life floor plan build, because I think back then when I first started playing Sims, I'm not really like following what houses should look like. It's kind of just building like a Minecraft house where it's just completely square, and I feel like I want to just fill up every single space, where the basement is like 2 floors worth of basement, and that thing would just go for the entire lot size. And I feel like I was just building some kind of underground mall at that point. But I feel like when you're kind of like not really thinking of realistic things, I feel like it's just really enjoyable, because you're just like mindlessly building however you want and not really following any kind of norm. And I feel like it was just like a really fun time. And I think when it comes to playing any kind of new games in life, and it's your first time playing it, with when I was like playing Terraria for the first time, or GTA for the first time, especially playing with friends, I feel like it's just such a fond memory of mine. And it's kind of with The Sims, where I was building that underground mall within my house. But it's not really meant to be a mall. It was just me trying to make use of every single space. And I added like a fountain in it in the basement. It was so odd. I wish I kept that build. It would be nice to kind of go back through memory lane. But of course, with all the builds I'm making now and moving forward, I feel like it'd be nice to keep memories of that, with how I've gone through building it and like seeing it in the gallery and things like that. I feel like it's just a nice way to keep fond memories. Here, I generally want to build the terrariums where it's using like driftwoods, rocks, and things like that. But I thought I would kind of make a little, what you would call like a diagram kind of thing, with small houses and things like that. It's kind of just me randomly going through the decorations and just filling up this terrarium, and I feel like it just turned out quite nice for how it turned out, and I feel like I want to add a bunch or make a terrarium for each build that I do, and it gives me the opportunity to just try different things. For one of the builds I did, it was a greenhouse and it had a combination of like a little pond with fish and then a whole section with like succulents and things like that, and that was just so cool. Maybe in one of the builds I might look into building a terrarium with succulents or like the cactuses in it, and I think that'd be cool. And as you saw, I kind of sized down one of those banana trees. I think it kind of looked cool, but it kind of like obviously doesn't size down further enough. But it kind of like worked out and just fit in there, but obviously it's kind of like clipping. But I think it's okay. I feel like when it comes to building in The Sims, I kind of feel too lazy finishing the basement, but I feel like it just makes it so much nicer in a finalized build when you have a finished basement, because you kind of add a bunch of functionality down there or additional like recreational space that kind of just flows well with the rest of the house, like adding additional rooms, adding like an exercise room, additional living room. It kind of gives like another opportunity to continue the theme or have like a completely different theme. And since you put so much effort building like the entire structure of the house with landscaping, I feel like it does it justice when you have a finished basement with it. A lot of times though, I would generally just copy the theme with the flooring, the wallpaper, and the bathroom. And I feel like it kind of just like works out since it's kind of just normal spaces that you use. It also allows you to kind of just build a little faster. Since you already have a theme in mind, you're allowed to just kind of like fill each bathroom so then you can focus on other things. It kind of just depends on what you kind of deem more important. And here I saw a room design where you have your tub in a certain direction, as you kind of see here, or earlier I should say, where you see the tub facing like a non-existent wall, but you kind of add a half wall and then like a little vanity or cabinet space behind, and you're able to just like relax, pull things out from the shelf however you please. And I think that's like quite cool. And I saw like other videos of bathroom designs where you kind of have your bathtub nested within like a corner, and this kind of things maybe I'll implement in the future, but I feel like those are more applicable to bigger bathrooms, since generally you would have like a 2x3 or a 3x3 bathroom kind of thing, so you don't really get many opportunities to add unique bathroom designs. Although maybe in the future I can find one that's a little bigger of a house or kind of different layouts, and I feel like that would be quite fun to try and do. Here I felt like I wanted to add additional living room and the exercise room, and there's like a thing that I did in my previous build. I feel like it's really important for you to have kind of like natural light for your exercise room, or having like a full shape, like full glass wall, so you can kind of like transfer the light into it, so it doesn't feel too cramped, it doesn't feel too humid and sweaty. But also I feel like it's more like a rich person thing where you have like a full glass room seeing into like the exercise room, or it can also be like a game room or bar or things like that. But I feel like exercise room kind of just fits the bill a lot better. And here is the final build where you'll see screenshots. I feel like it turned out quite nice. And with the trees that I kind of put randomly, I feel like they kind of just work out without you having to landscape every single little bit. So it's kind of like quick, but also it's like tasteful. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the video. And in the end, you'll see once again the real life floor plan for the first floor, second floor, and such. But yeah.